Welcome back everybody to Top Tier Studios. This is episode 21, and this is actually the first episode of 2021 for Planet Coaster on my channel. So in this episode, we are actually going to be starting and finishing a brand new section of the park. This is going to be themed to Back to the Future. This is actually a brand that Planet Coaster has contracted with, along with the Ghostbusters pack that we already did earlier in the series. So they also have the licensing agreement for this. So they have a ride in game for it, and that is the go-kart track. So instead of having the little go-karts that look like go-karts, they actually look like the Mandalorian, the little car that's in the show. So that's kind of what we're going to go with here. It kind of fits perfectly for a studios park, and that's really why I chose to use it. And I really like how this area turns out in the end. It's just this little corner section, and there's going to be a little bit of theming, not crazy like the dark rides, but there will be a little bit. And the queue is also nice in there as well. So we got all this section going in right in this little corner that you kind of see on screen, and then next to it there's going to be kind of a really big change in scenery. So some areas might not seem completely done yet, but that's just because we have to wait till the expansion of the actual park is complete for everything to seem final and whole. So that's where you're going to see a little bit of gaps and stuff here and there, but don't be worried. We are going to be done with this eventually, and then we'll actually come back to it and complete it. So with that being said, there will be a POV of this ride at the end of the episode. I'll put a timestamp on screen right now if you want to skip to that and don't want to see the construction. But this ride was actually kind of interesting to construct. The theming, as I said, not too crazy. It's really just kind of fitting it into this area. The paths actually had to go over the track, and then we have to fit in a queue in this area. The layout for the go-kart track is pretty much done. There will be some minor tweaks here and there, but I really like how the station came out, and or not the station, I guess you could call it the finish line. I really like how that area came out, and then the actual exit isn't going to exit into this plaza. It's going to exit where the Apocalypse ride, which we did in the last episode. That's where the exits are going to kind of merge and go right in between the two areas. Now that street that's kind of in the middle of nowhere, connecting the Apocalypse area to the pirate site type area that we got going there, that's gonna be kind of like no man's land. So I'm gonna, at the end of this episode or near it, I'm gonna be kind of working on that, just kind of filling in some wall space because I don't want it to look like a huge show building. So we're just gonna kind of put in some theming there, nothing too crazy. Kind of wanted to blend it into this ride, so they kind of look like houses. There's a little bit of sections in the movies where the houses kind of come into play, so I figured, you know what, that's kind of cool how we can incorporate that there. So currently we are working on the station for this ride, and I keep calling it the station. I don't really know what else to call it, so I'm sorry if there's a more technical term that I just don't know, but we're gonna go with station because that's all I really know how to call it. Because I mean, you could call it what could you call that? Like I said, you could call it the finish line maybe, but or the starting line, I guess. I don't know. So we'll just call it the station. But the ride for this, I actually came up with a name. It's a play on words, I guess you could say. I called it Back to the Raceway, Back to the Future, Back to the Raceway. I don't know. I kind of like that. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Of course, you can always let me know if you have a better ride name suggestion. Let me know. And then if you have any suggestions for other rides, go ahead and leave them in there, because nothing's final until the park is complete. Everything can still change a little bit here and there. But anyway, the station cover is done, and then it actually kind of expands into a queue cover of some sort. And I really like how this futuristic look kind of came into play. You know, Back to the Future, kind of again going with the same type of theming here. Kind of futuristic, but not too crazy, because the show also has old style stuff. So it's kind of getting that nice blend going in. So the station, of course, is going to be this kind of futuristic vibe, and then it's kind of going to go back in time and forward in time, and you're going to kind of see a little bit of things, but the theming isn't going to be so heavy, to where it looks like you're in a completely different time. It's just going to be like you're going to see the same stuff. It's just going to look a little bit older and like worn down. And so that's kind of where we're heading in that direction. This station did take a good minute to make. There's going to be like pillars like you already see there, but then there's going to be pillars of like the ride name going down the sides and stuff. These neon signs that are going in right now, that's what the names are going to be on. But I think it looks pretty good at the end. So you have to leave me your feedback if you have any suggestions to change or anything. Make sure to let me know. So we are not even halfway done. This is a longer episode. As I said, this ride and this section pretty much gets completed. And I just hit something there. Okay. So now that we actually did the station there, and the queue is done, and the track work's done, we're actually going to move on to start theming this ride. Now I had a couple of ideas when theming it. So this first section of track, we're not going to actually look at right now. We're just kind of building the Mandalorian, because the smaller versions I feel like aren't big enough for the ride. So we had to build our own custom one. But luckily the game gives us the pieces to do that. So that's good and fancy. So as I was saying, the first section is going to be kind of like where they first unveil the car, and like, you know, how they first test it out. That's where you're gonna see like that big truck that has like Dr. Brown on it. So that's where that's gonna be. And then right at this turnaround here is gonna be the first version of the Mandalorian, which is just the normal car. And then you're actually gonna turn around that U-turn, and you're gonna hit your Back to the Future boost, and you're gonna go back in time, and you're gonna run into that barn, which is really from the first episode. So, or the first, yeah, I guess you could call it the first part of the movie. So that's really what happens there. And I'm not gonna go too crazy with the timeline here. It goes in time, like the correct timeline of the movies, but it's not gonna go into too much depth of like the plot. So like we have this inaugural stuff, and then it's gonna kind of move into the second movie rather quickly, and then the third movie directly after that. And then at the end, it's just gonna kind of meander around. There's not really gonna be much theming there, except for their house, of course. So, as I said, this is the box truck that you would think the car comes out of, and this is where like they start testing it. Nothing too crazy, just the truck with the name on it. I wish the truck was bigger. This is the biggest truck that I could find. In game, it probably is big compared to the people, but like compared to the ride, it's really small. So I wish I could have had it bigger. I can't. That's the best I can do. And then the name on it is also kind of small, just because of the pieces that I could use. So we got the name going on it, and that's pretty much what this section is going to be. We'll put the tires on the truck, and then that'll be that section. And then you're going to move into that U-turn, as I said. The car is already there. And then also something that I realized while I was building this ride is that the tires for the cars, there's 4 different ones. There's the normal tires, the retro tires, then there's the flying tires, and then there's the railroad tires, which are all used. And so I didn't notice that until I had already placed these cars. So I had to go back and like redo them. So like this front car that you just saw there, that had the retro tires on them, and then I had to go back and switch that, but I had already switched it, so you didn't really see that. So there was the barn section. Luckily it fit into the track really nicely, that way I didn't have to really pre-build one. So that really came nice. And then we're moving on to another scene from the first movie, but this one's also seen in the second one as well. It is where they kind of hide the Mandalorian in the old school place. That way people don't find it and kind of freak out about it. And now we're going to move on to the actual second movie where you see the flying Mandalorian. And that one's going to be right next to the queue. It has good interaction there. And this one has to be realistic, so I put in some poles to support it. And then I also went back and made a little bit of trigger sequence there. Might be a little bit unrealistic, but I put in like the flames that the car goes through. Like once it goes back in time, there's a bunch of flames that like are left on the road and stuff. So I left those there. It might be a little unrealistic, but I figured it doesn't have to be real fire. It's probably just a special effect or something like lighting. So I figured a studio park has the technology to do that. So I figured that's what we could do there. So and then fourth and finally, we have the fourth Mandalorian, which is the one on the train tracks, and that's from the third movie. So that's really all the Back to the Future references that we're going to include in this ride. And that's actually pretty much the majority of the ride themed. The rest of it is just going to be a lot of plants going in, and that's just because of what we're going to be moving on to on the other side of this ride, which is going to be a whole different themed area, and it will actually be the last themed area of the park. As I said in the beginning of the episode, we're getting pretty close to finishing this park. That we have that one area, and then we have a hotel that I want to build. And so that's actually probably what we're going to move on to next episode, and that's just kind of the way it's moving down the chain. The hotel is next in line. So hopefully you guys are ready for that. I'm assuming I'm thinking that one's going to take about 2 episodes to do. I don't know if, I've never really built a huge hotel before, so I don't know. I think it could probably take 1 to 2. That's what I'm going to say. I think 1 is probably our better bet, but then that's going to leave us at episode 22, and then let's say the last area is going to take us 2 episodes, plus a cleanup episode. That should take us to around 25 episodes, and we should be done with this park. So, yeah, we're looking at maybe 3 or 4 more episodes, which is kind of exciting, because I have an idea for my next park already, and I'm really excited about that. The problem is, when you move on to new ideas, your current projects kind of fall behind. So I'm making sure not to forget about this park, and that's why I haven't started that one. And I'm really excited about it, but I'm making sure I finish this one, and I don't want to rush it either. So as we move on to our final section of theming here, we already put in the house at the final curve, and I did that just because, you know, every episode has their house in common, so I figured that's kind of a good reference to end it on. And then it also kind of blends the areas together nicely, kind of covers up this exit path here, but then it also kind of moves into the more buildings again. And on the wall for the show building for the pirates and the pirate ride, that one's going to have all of these buildings going across it. So it's kind of a good transition there. Now there is a little bit of gap between the Apocalypse area and this road that we're working on currently. That is going to get themed up eventually. I don't know exactly when. There's that just little gap there. But the rest of it's pretty much going to get themed right now. And that's all we're going to do. I didn't know how exactly I wanted to do it. I wanted the buildings to be a little bit shorter. So that's kind of what I did with these slanted roofs instead. And I think I achieved it pretty well. Now, it still looks a lot more city than I would like it to. The actual movie is a lot more suburban and countryside, so I wish I could have had that a little bit better, but then again, I have to cover up this whole show building, so it has to be tall, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. We put in this wood building, we finished up that concrete building, not concrete, that's a brick building, and then we're going to kind of scroll through here. I was going to put another smaller house right here on the opposite side of the road to kind of cover up the track a little bit for the go-kart track, and it didn't really fit. I felt like it was going to be a little bit too crammed, so instead we're just going to kind of put in some foliage there, and that's probably going to be the last thing we do. So we're going to keep moving on this stretch. That's pretty much all we're going to finish off with, and then we're going to give you a POV, obviously, but we got this another type of brick here. It's not the same brick as the house. It's a little bit more modern, I think. It's the modern brick in the game. So that's what's going in there. And then we're going to have one more building next to that, I believe. So we're just going to kind of theme these up, decorate them, make them look a little bit less plain. And then that should be it for this episode. I'm kind of dragging it out now because I have not much to talk about. I don't really want to reveal too much about next episode, although I already did. We're doing a hotel, as I said, but the areas of what it's going to look like, I'm just going to say the car parking lot is going to get expanded quite a bit, and the little pond area should get expanded as well, and then that's really all I'm going to say. So stay tuned for next episode, which should be next week, and we'll be working on that. So as we near the end of this episode, we're doing our last building. This one was a little bit different. I used the Chinese walls, but they kind of look good as a stucco if you make them like a cream color. So that's kind of what I did there. And then I put a nice little border on top to finish that look. And then some windows going in, some doors, and then finally some foliage going in. So that's going to do it for this episode. Now I'm going to drag out just a little bit because I don't have much to talk about, but I want to talk about something because we're actually just going to lead into the POV right now. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Hopefully you guys will join in next time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.